Hey, welcome to Vance Tried It. Today, we're going to be making a cinnamon roll cake. Now, we're not going to be using cinnamon rolls for the cake, but we're going to make a cake that's going to taste like a cinnamon roll. So, we're going to start off with our dry ingredients. We have 3 cups of all-purpose flour here. To that, we're going to add 1 cup of sugar. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and we're just going to put in a little bit of salt, maybe a teaspoon and a half of salt. So when you're baking, here's kind of a good rule of thumb. If you're using butter, if you use salted butter, don't put salt in your dry ingredients. If you're using unsalted butter, you probably want to put a little bit of salt in there. That salt is going to help all those flavors kind of meld together. It's going to enhance all the flavors you have in your baking. So go ahead, and we're going to be using some unsalted butter, and so we put a little bit of salt in there. After I get all the dry ingredients in there, I'm going to whisk that up really good. That's going to get all that flour separated. It's also going to get it really mixed really well with the sugar and the baking powder. So we're just going to whisk it really good, just like this. And that's good to go right there. So we're going to put all of this into our mixing bowl. As much of it as I don't pour out on the ground. I don't think I lost too much of it there. Let's just get that out the way. Okay, to that, we're going to now start adding our wet ingredients. So, right in here, we're going to add 1.5 cups of milk. Now, another little tip for baking. You really want all of your items to be the same temperature when you're baking. So I went ahead and set the milk and the eggs out of the refrigerator for a little over an hour. So they'll all be at the same temperature. That's just going to help them all kind of join together really well. And I have here 2 eggs and then 1 tablespoon of, actually that was a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I'm going to put our beater on here. And one of the things whenever you're making this is you want to make sure you don't over mix it. So we're going to start off on a pretty low speed here, about a 2. Let's get going on 1. And now we're going to add in, as it's mixing, we're going to add in our butter. This butter is what I call mostly melted. So it is not completely melted. I'm seeing about a spatula up here somewhere. There it is. Just to make sure we get all this good buttery goodness out of here. And really, just like that, about as long as it takes you to pour that butter in, give it a couple more seconds for the butter to get incorporated into your cake batter, and you're good to go. Let me get this out the way here. And we will get this going. Get all this goodness off of here and into the bowl. Just like that. Okay. Now I have a buttered dish here, and so I'm going to just pour this batter right into our dish here. Now, I do like to remind you, when I say butter, I mean butter. You don't really want to be using margarine in any of these recipes. You want to use butter. Butter is way healthier for you, and it's going to do so much better when you're cooking. rather than the margarine. So go ahead and use real butter. Set this off to the side here. Now we're just going to get our cake batter spread out in here. Just like this. Get it pretty even. Like that. I just realized also I should have had my oven preheating, so let's get that baby turned on as soon as I get some more of this batter off of here. Because it'd be awful hard to cook it if our oven's not on. So let's get that taken care of. There we go. But now that's all right because we are not ready to put it in the oven anyway. So we're going to set this off to the side and we're going to go ahead with our next step. So we're going to get our bowl back over here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making the cinnamon roll topping to go on here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 cup of brown sugar. Now whenever you're measuring brown sugar, you're going to pack it, right? So you want packed brown sugar. And because you packed it, I always like to take this handy dandy little dough cutter. And I use it more for this probably than for cutting dough. But it's a good way to just get that brown sugar divided up and unpacked. So we got that taken care of. And then to that, I have 1 tablespoon of flour. I have 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And now I'm just going to take my whisk again. I'm going to get all these dry ingredients mixed together. Just like this. And now to this, I'm going to add 1 cup, that's 2 sticks of melted butter. So let's pour that in there, just like that. And now we're just going to get in here and get this all mixed together. You want to get all of that brown sugar really dissolved into that butter. And so it should start to stiffen up a little bit. Kind of like that. And then we're going to go back over here and we're going to just pour this mixture into our cake over the top here, kind of like this. Let's go ahead, use this spatula here. It's not going to hurt anything. It's all going to be cooking together anyway, so I don't drop my bowl in here. Just like that. And then, man, I got a lot of stuff over here. Now I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to start to just swirl this. And what I'm really wanting to do is I'm wanting to let some of this mixture that's up on top of everything, I want to really let it get down into the cake batter. You'll start to see some of the white kind of coming through up on top. That's what we want. We don't want it completely mixed together. We just want to see some nice designs on here. Just kind of like that right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bake this in our oven for about 40 minutes. And so whenever this gets up to heat, I'm going to put this in there, I'm going to bake it, and we'll get back to you as we put a glaze on this delicious cinnamon roll cake. So I'll see you in about 40 minutes. Okay, so we've been in the oven now for about 37, 38 minutes. I think the cake should be done. Let's open it up and take a look. It smells delicious. You can take a look at that. See how that is all swirled together on top of there? That is exactly the look we're going for. So we're just going to test it right here. I'm going to take this knife and put in there. It feels pretty solid. And it's a little runny, but the runny is dark. So I'm pretty sure that's just the sauce that was on there and not the actual cake. So we're going to go with it just like it is. And actually what we're going to do is we're just going to put this all the way back there, just like that. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to make a glaze. And we want to wait to make this glaze until this moment because we want to put it on the cake while the cake is warm, but not while it's fresh out of the oven hot. So what I have here is 1 cup of powdered or confectioner sugar. I'll put that in the bowl. I have here about 2.5 tablespoons of milk. Let's pour that in there. And then I have here 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and that is going to make our glaze. I'll use this one. We're just going to get this all stirred up. This is just one of these little wire whisks. I've used this for a long time. I really like it when I'm making like chocolate milk, and I just take milk and put the chocolate syrup in there. Then it works wonderful because you can get really down along the edge of the cup, but it also works good for stuff like this. And we just want to make sure we get it really well whisked together because we don't want any clumps of the powdered sugar in there. And that is good to go. And so let's just move this back over here, front and center. And now we're just going to take our glaze and we're just going to begin to pour this over our cake. And we really want to, if we see any holes, because we should have some holes there where we swirled it. Any of the holes, that's really where we want to get some of this poured on really well, so that it can seep down in those holes. And then we're going to get our handy dandy little spatula so we don't leave any of this glaze still in the bowl. Man, oh man. This smells so good, but we're not going to taste it yet. We're going to hold off. We're going to let that glaze really soak into there. We're going to let it cool off just a little bit so that it will hold together better. And so we're going to come back in about 15, 20 minutes and give this a try. So I'll see you then. Okay, now that wasn't long for you, but trust me, it was a long time for me. So we've been having this rest for about 20 minutes, and now we're going to dig in and see what it's like as we cut us a nice little piece of cake here. There we go. Okay. Now, let's get us a good bite with some of this crispy topping on it. Mmm. Wow. Okay, so that topping we put on there, it definitely seeped down into the cake, which is exactly what we were wanting. It's crispy on top, but it's still a little bit kind of liquefied in the middle, and it just tastes delicious. Mmm. The cake itself is super moist. The cake is great. The topping is great. And, I mean, don't expect it to hold together. I suppose if you want it to hold it together a little bit more, don't go quite as deep maybe as I did when you're swirling it. But I like it like this. I don't mind it falling apart. And as it cools off more, it will hold together more. But just like this is a great cake. So I tried it, and you should too.